My name is Poppy and I'm 50 years old. If you met me today, you'd think I'm calm and grounded, maybe even a little too practical. But there was a time in my life when nothing felt real, when I didn't trust the ground under my feet. It all began 5 years ago in a quiet town in Indiana. Life was simple then. I worked at a local insurance office, took care of my aging father, and visited my sister Laura every Sunday. We were close, or at least I thought we were. Laura had always been different. She was beautiful, confident, and unpredictable. She married Derek, a man who loved power, flashy cars, loud talk, and control. They had this friend, Marcus, who was always around. I didn't like him. Something about his eyes, cold, calculating, made me uneasy. But family is family. I kept quiet. Then, one summer evening, everything changed. It started small, things I couldn't explain. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. every night, like clockwork. Sometimes to the sound of footsteps in the hallway, sometimes to whispers that faded the second I turned on the light. Then came the smells, burnt herbs and something sour and metallic, like blood. My house felt heavy, like someone had sucked the air out of it. At first I thought I was losing my mind. I went to the doctor, tests, scans, and therapy, all normal. But I wasn't normal. I'd get sudden fevers, chest pressure, and violent nightmares where Laura stood at the edge of my bed, whispering words I couldn't understand. One night I called her, just to hear her voice. She sounded calm, almost too calm. "You're imagining things, Poppy," she said. "You worry too much." But I could hear Derek laughing in the background, and Marcus said something low that I couldn't quite catch. Something inside me said, "They know." A week later, I found something strange on my porch. A clay bowl, half buried in the dirt, filled with ashes, nails, and pieces of fabric that looked like my clothes. My hands trembled as I picked it up. There was a note under it. It said, in crooked handwriting, "Let her break. Let her fall." I dropped it and screamed. I called Laura, furious, demanding to know what this was. She laughed and said, "You always think the world's out to get you." Maybe it finally is. Then she hung up. That night, I barely slept. The lights flickered all evening, my phone kept ringing from blocked numbers, and when I looked out my window, I swear, I saw 3 shadows standing at the edge of my yard. I fell to my knees and prayed. The next morning, I called a pastor I knew from years ago, Pastor James. I told him everything. He didn't dismiss me. He said, "Poppy, sometimes evil hides in the faces we trust." But light has power too. He came over that evening with 2 church members and prayed in every room. The air shifted. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. But peace didn't last. A few days later, my car brakes failed on the highway. Miraculously, I wasn't hurt. The mechanic said it looked like someone had cut the line. That's when I knew this wasn't just spiritual. They wanted to break me, body and soul. I started documenting everything, photos, messages, and that clay bowl I'd saved in a plastic bag. I went to the police, but they looked at me like I was paranoid. "Without proof of a threat," they said, "there's not much we can do." So I turned inward. Every night I lit a white candle, prayed, and played gospel music in every corner of my home. I poured salt across doorways and opened windows for light. I refused to give in to fear. And slowly things started to change. The nightmares faded. The house felt warm again. My energy came back. Then one evening I got a call. It was my cousin crying. She told me that Laura and Derek's marriage had fallen apart. Derek had been arrested for fraud, Marcus had disappeared, and Laura had moved out of town. I didn't feel joy. I felt pity. Whatever darkness they'd invited in had turned on them. Weeks later, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No name, no return address. Inside was a single note. It said, "We shouldn't have done it. I'm sorry." The handwriting was Laura's. I sat on my porch, the sun setting over the trees, holding that note in my hands. Tears fell. Not for the past, but for everything we'd lost as sisters. Love, trust, peace. I'll never know what they did or how deep it went. Whether it was black magic, manipulation, or something darker, I can't say. But I know what I felt. The weight, the fear. The way light felt like it was being pulled out of me. And I know that prayer, faith, and forgiveness brought me back. Today, I still wake up sometimes at 3 a.m, but instead of fear, I whisper a prayer of gratitude. I survived. If there's one thing I learned, it's this. Darkness doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people we love most. But no matter how strong it seems, it can never overcome the light we choose to keep burning inside us. I lost my sister. I lost my trust. But I found something stronger. My faith, my peace, and the power to never fear the unseen again.